Welcome to Meeting of the Moms, a place to talk about all the things. I'm Amy Rasmussen. I'm a teacher by profession, a wife and mother by choice, an optimist by nature, and happy by design. I'm here with my good friend Lorna, who I call one of my greatest cheerleaders.
Hi, I'm Lorna Adams. I'm a wife, mom, and certified life coach. I strive to embrace and enjoy each new phase of life. Here at Moms, we believe the world is wide open to all of us and that we have unlimited potential. We're so glad you're here.
This episode is part 1 of 3 from a conversation we had looking back on our mothering journey. This part of our chat focused mainly on what brought us to motherhood. We are so thankful for the many people who helped shape our decisions. We hope to honor our own journeys and each other's journeys on this grand adventure called motherhood. Let's listen in.
It's fun sometimes to just look back and think about what got us here. And so I would say that my journey in the context of motherhood probably starts way back in high school. And I remember in high school feeling like there's a strong emphasis on mothers should be home and that their focus should be the family. And at the time in high school, I was like, well, why do I have to stay home? I want to be able to go have a career. Like, this is stupid. And notice my language. Why do I have to? Like, there was something in me that felt like I was being told I had to do something. So regardless of whether I was being told that or not, that's how I felt. Well, fast forward to early college years, and I had an aunt and uncle who asked me to nanny for them during the summers when I was off of my college classes. And so I did. And through that experience, I was there for so many different things that happened with those kids. I was there for certain questions. I was there for funny moments. And I remember in that time period, I thought, I don't want to miss this. I want to be there for this with my kids. And so I just had this complete turnaround and I decided, nope, as much as I love learning and I was going into teaching and I was excited to do that, but as much as I wanted to do all those things, I remember thinking like, I want to stay home. Not only do I want to be a mom, but I want to stay home. And I had committed to that. And so that was my early journey. Do you have any thoughts about your early journey?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I love to hear how there's different perspectives. We all can take things differently. Yeah. And for me, I always wanted to be a mom. I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. My mom had done that. And I remember it was probably when I was in middle school. And I just remember thinking, I want to be home with my kids. I want to be able to be with them. But I just always grew up knowing I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So that wasn't really a shift for me. So it's fun to hear your experience that it was. It was a big shift.
Yeah. It's fun to just see that there are so many different perspectives, different journeys. This is about our journey, and we invite you to think about your journey. So after that nanny time, I got married and I was teaching, and then I was pregnant with my first child, and I had told other teachers there that I was going to stay home. And it was so interesting the responses I got from those within my teaching and profession community and also from those within our faith community. But the things that stood out to me were these. So I had a principal who was like, oh, don't stay home, you're going to be so bored. And I remember thinking, I am never bored. There's always too much that I want to do. I don't have time for it. I just don't think I'm going to get bored. And that same woman had said, if you stay home, you're going to be bored. So go to work, do teaching. Because I loved teaching. I loved it. But she said, you know what? Like, your kid might call the daycare lady mom before he calls you mom, but you get over it. And in that moment, I was like, that is not something I want to get over. So not a judgment of her, but a realization for me in these conversations of what I wanted. And one thing I wanted was I wanted to be there for the moments, right? I was there for with my cousins. Secondly, I wanted to be there to be called mom. I didn't want to have to get over my child calling someone else mom first. And then I had another older teacher. She just said, those are the most important years. Absolutely, I fully support you. And that was kind of nice. It was nice to have not just people saying like you're doing it wrong, right? Like someone be supportive. And then another teacher, she was also a little bit older. She didn't have any kids. And she came up to me one day and she's like, Amy, I was helping new teachers yesterday. And one teacher raised her hand and said, I feel like I either have to be a good mom and a bad teacher or a good teacher and a bad mom. And she's like, in that moment, I thought of you and I thought of your decision. And what I said to that young mom, and you have to remember, like, this woman never had kids, right? So she taught for years and didn't choose to have children. And she said, what I said to her is always choose to be a good mom. And so be the bad teacher, be the good mom, kind of a perspective. And so that just was really meaningful to me that she chose to come and share that with me. And she's like, I just want you to know I support what you're doing. And as I worked with kids all these years, it's so amazing to see what happens when there's supportive parents with those kids. So anyway, just kind of evolved. There were more things that people said to me, but those were some that have stuck with me all these years that helped me solidify my decision. Because with all of both the good and the things that weren't so supportive, I was like, okay, but this is what I want. And so I went from why do I have to what do I want and why? And that shift made a big difference.
Yeah. Well, and I love it. And I think the idea of a lot of times both parents are working at this point,
Yep.
right? And so I think just even the idea of how can I be a great mom and a great whatever in the workforce if that's what's needed?
I think the takeaway from that particular statement was that sometimes the world says give everything up for a career. But I think her perspective was what you do with these kids for this little piece of time will matter. And so if something has to give, it's okay if the career gives sometimes. And it doesn't mean you never show up. It doesn't mean you don't have lesson plans. But where is your highest contribution was her perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
That was my journey, and that brings me to motherhood. Do you have other things you wanted to share about your journey?
The one experience that my husband and I had together, we were both working when we first got married, and he was starting up his own business, kind of a computer programming business. And we had talked about me staying at home, that was already a conversation we had before we got married and early on in our marriage. And he knew I felt it was important, and he agreed with me and wanted to support me in that role, and has. But he said, if you'll support us financially this first year, I will take care of the rest. And when he said it, I knew he meant it, but in the back of my mind, I also knew, like, there is a chance that he wouldn't be able to, and that would be fine too. Like, we will do whatever we need to do. But I just thought that was so awesome of him to be like, I know this is important, and so I'm going to support you. And he totally has taken it. Fast forward, COVID happened just a couple years ago, and there was a conversation that we had, and he was commenting like, okay, things are really rough. We might need you to go back to work. And at that point too, it was like, yeah, I'll do it if I need to. And I can see that this might be needed. But it was just awesome that at least even until COVID, up until our youngest was probably about 10, that I was able to stay at home the whole time.
The thing I'm thinking about with that is that conversation, that desire expressed, and that support expressed changes things. When I'm supporting you, you're supporting me, and then when the hard time comes, we're still supporting each other. It's something of support, and that's just how it ended up being verbalized, and he has been able to do it. But you're right, another circumstance could have given you guys a different path, but you knew that was his desire, and that he saw value in your desire too.
And then as I was a stay-at-home mom and things were hard, I knew that he supported me.
Yes.
And that he really, even though it was hard for me, I loved it and it was hard, he was still there like, yeah, this is still important, Lorna. Yeah, this is what we wanted. This is what you wanted. And it was so good to have that support from him all along those years too.
And in all of this, we recognize that the choice to stay home, it's both a luxury and a sacrifice at the exact same time. It's a luxury that we've got to choose.
We're so glad that you joined us today as we went down memory lane and thought about the experiences that led us to our kind of motherhood. We invite you to think about the experiences that led you to motherhood. The rest of this conversation can be found in the next 2 episodes.
Thanks for coming to Meeting of the Moms. We hope it made your load a little lighter. We'd love to hear what's on your mind. Send your celebrations, takeaways, and suggestions for future topics to momswithamyandlorna@gmail.com.
If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe. If this isn't the right fit for you, we wish you well on your journey. Until next time, I'm Lorna Adams.
And I'm Amy Rasmussen. See you next week at Moms.